Welcome back, troops, to Let's Tab 59. So, I want to chat about what you think about how, well, a couple of subjects really, but within a subject. So how do you think the public view veterans? And I'll explain. So if a member of the public, a civilian, that doesn't know anyone that's in the army, hasn't got any friends that were in the army or are in the army, or they don't have any family, they've got no military connection at all, how do those people view veterans? So I've noticed, and maybe you have too, that some TV dramas, especially in the UK, TV shows, TV dramas, crime dramas, whatever, quite often if there's a veteran depicted in it, and I know this is all fictional mainly, but there's a veteran depicted in this TV show, this TV drama or movie, they always seem to me to be depicted as a troubled person, and they're either going to be portrayed to have anger management issues, maybe they're a vigilante, or they're an alcoholic and a wife beater or something along those lines, or they're suffering from some sort of mental illness, PTSD, shell shocks, combat stress, whatever you want to call it. That often seems to be the case. Now, I know that's fictional. I know I'm talking about fictional drama, and it's written and produced for entertainment purposes for the story. I get that. I know it's not real life. But I wonder if that sort of depiction of veterans through TV shows, and there's other things online as well, online media and even adverts showing veterans suffering with PTSD. And I wonder if all those things together give somebody that's not aware of veterans or military people, I wonder if it gives them sort of with being stereotyped in a way. And if we are, does that affect us? Does that affect veterans that are okay? They're not like that. I mean, it could, for example, affect you if you went for a job. So if you've got somebody, a hiring manager, you're going to try and get a job with a particular company, and they look at your CV and they see that you're ex-forces. Is that going to put them off? Have you been stereotyped, and in their eyes, you're a risk? I'm not saying it happens, but I just wonder, it's the question I want to put out there. Now, interestingly, a few years ago, there was a study, and I think it was done by, it was one of the employment agencies, online employment agents. I'm not saying it was by Indeed, but it was a company like that, I believe. And they did a study, and they asked various questions to hiring managers of companies. And the question was, what's your feelings about employing ex-forces personnel? 54%. Now, I know that's not a lot. That's only sort of like 50-50, isn't it? 54% of hiring managers said they would be reluctant to employ somebody that was in the forces. And the reason they gave was they were worried that person, that's ex-forces veteran, would have some sort of mental health issues. And that's what would put them off hiring them into the workplace. Now, I know many veterans that have come out the army and gone straight into cracking jobs, especially those veterans that have got a really good transferable skill. I'll give an example. I know a guy that done 22 years, Royal Engineers, warrant officer, and he was clerk of works in the Royal Engineers. And when he came out, he found work no problem. Because obviously being a clerk of works, any Royal Engineers out there, ex-clerk of works, make great facilities managers, for instance. They've got all the ticks in the boxes. They're used to working with contractors, civilian contractors. And so they're really well suited to that type of work. I'm imagining all this, but my mate, or a friend of mine, did exactly that. So what I'm saying is, if you've got a transferable skill, maybe you're in the remit as a vehicle mechanic or a vehicle electrician. Those kind of trades are very, very transferable into Civvy Street. But is that still going to put a hiring manager off that you're a veteran? You can't really say on your CV that you weren't in the army. You can have a massive gap. You can't really lie, can you? So is it putting them off? And is it because of the stereotyping that sometimes happens on TV drama shows? Just a question I'm putting out there. Now, lots of lads and lasses that come out the army may have done a short term in the army, in the armed forces, not just the army, Navy and the Air Force as well. They might have only done maybe 4 years or 6 years, quite a short time. And they may not have been in a role in the armed forces that's transferable for the job they're going to. I mean, an easy example would be an infantryman or somebody from the tank regiment, armoured corps, or maybe even artillery, certain artillery trades. Their trades aren't going to be necessarily transferable. For instance, if you've done maybe 4, 6 years or whatever in the armed forces in one of those roles, you might only come out with, say, a driving licence. You might have heavy goods licence, but you're not going to have too many transferable skills. So it's going to be a bit difficult. And I also know that when you come out, however long you serve, there is a certain amount of resettlement package that you get, and advice on this very subject, I'm sure, and help with CVs, etc. But those guys might struggle. Obviously, it's not so much now, I don't believe, but there was a lot of work for infantrymen, especially if you were para or a Royal Marine Commando or Special Forces soldier. You come out and you could go straight onto what they call the circuit. Basically, the circuit is you because of your trade, like I say, your cap badge, and you've got operational experience, you can get onto this private military company circuit where you can work for these private military companies. And they were earning really big bucks. I'm not sure how much they're getting paid now, and I'm not sure if there's much of it going on. But certainly when Afghanistan and Iraq was going on, a lot of lads were leaving the forces out of the infantry regiments and going straight into private military contracting work. But apart from that, it might be difficult for somebody to get a job and transfer those skills. Yes, if you were just in the infantry and you've got no skills and you come out, you're still going to have stuff that's valuable to a civilian employer. Smartness, timekeeping, trustworthiness, honesty. Those kinds of attributes that you can say, I've done 6 years in the army or whatever you were serving in. You don't have a particular trade for that job you're going for, but you're still going to have that discipline about you, which can be valuable to a civilian employer. But it is difficult. My own personal experience, I came out the army at 55, almost 56, shy of a couple of months. So just shy of my 56th birthday. And what did I do? Nothing initially. I did work for a private military company, but not on the circuit as such. I wasn't going off overseas. I stayed in the UK and I'd done some training work with this PMC, private military contracting company. I won't name them. But I did that for a short time, 0 hours contract. Money wasn't fantastic, but I thought it might have led on to other things. But I was quite disillusioned. And of course, I was away a lot, and I thought, well, I'm back to square one, being away all the time. So I did it for a short period of time and found it wasn't for me and didn't take it any further. Then I did a little bit of casual bar work, just for something to do, basically. I was getting a little bit bored after a while. I did that for a while, and then I started to work in a care home as a handyman, of all things. And I did a little bit of work for a couple of 3 months, I think it was, working in a care home. Started off as a handyman, but eventually I was actually writing some of their policies for them, like Legionella policies and COSH and fire stuff, because I'd got a few of those qualifications from when I'd been on RQMS back in the day. So I was able to transfer that. I did that for a while and then sacked it all together and haven't done anything. So I wasn't looking for another career, another job. Of course, a lot of guys and girls come out and go into the police force, another service, or the fire brigade, the fire service. Because again, they've got a lot of transferable skills maybe that can be used in that sort of work. But it's not for everybody. And I'm not sure if the police are so interested these days in taking on ex-forces personnel. I suppose military police type people who would, but I don't know if they're still recruiting ex-soldiers or not. I suppose they are. But there used to be a lot of our police used to be ex-forces back in the day. I don't think it happens as much. So yeah, do we get stereotyped, and is that stereotyping of veterans from TV shows, etc., is that affecting the public's perspective of veterans? Do they think we're all raving alcoholics that have got PTSD and going to harm people or something, which is obviously wrong? I'm sure there's cases of that, but having it depicted on TV in these drama shows, you know, where this veteran comes out, he's troubled, he can't settle in the civvy street, he's drinking a lot, his marriage splits up, and then he goes down the criminal route or something. There's been a couple, I mean, if you look at that film, you might have seen that film, I think it's called Harry Brown. Michael Caine stars in it as an old pensioner, an ex-Royal Marine Commando. And in that, he becomes a bit of a vigilante character, even though he's like in his 70s or whatever. I can't remember exactly now. But there was also a TV show, going back a bit now, might have been the 80s or 90s, called Civvies. And I think it was from a book written by Linda LaPlante. And I think it was adapted for screen, for TV. And that showed a few lads from the parachute regiment that had got out of the army, and how they were getting on in Civvy Street, getting different jobs, and how they eventually went down the criminal route. And I think at the end they go to prison, some of them, and the struggles that they have with civilian life. So those types of shows, I think that one as well, Bodyguard. Do you remember that one a couple of years ago? It's called Bodyguard, where there's an ex-soldier and he's depicted as being quite unstable or something. So those kinds of shows, I know it's entertainment, I know it's fictional, but shows like that, people watch them, and sometimes people then believe that's how we are as veterans. We're not right, and so it could put them off of future employment because of those very reasons. So I'm interested to know your thoughts. Maybe you've experienced that. I'm sure there's many, in fact I know there's many of my subscribers out there that are veterans that have gone on to have fantastic careers in Civvy Street with no problems at all. But I also bet there's a few of you out there watching this that being an ex-soldier and declaring that to a future employer has been a drama. I'd like to hear about that. And also I'd like to hear from anyone that's got no contact with the military at all. What are your thoughts on veterans? Do you think we're all crazy? Do you think we're bad people, or do you think would you employ us, in other words? Interested to know. So if you're new to my channel and you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying do it. I'm not saying subscribe. I'm saying consider it. Christmas coming up, lots more videos to come. Stay safe, everyone. Until next time, remember, let's tab.